Hi friends, my name is Ajay Dwivedi. Today we are going to talk about SQL Monitor and how to install it on inventory server, as well as we will baseline another SQL Server machine. Before we move forward, I want to share out few URLs that might be helpful to you. The first URL, ajaydwivedi.com/github/SQL Monitor. It will take you to the SQL Monitor GitHub repository, from where you can download the code for SQL Monitor. The second URL, ajaydwivedi.com/demo/SQL Monitor. If you want to try SQL Monitor and see how the dashboards look like, whether they would be helpful to you or not, and how they are, how many dashboards do I have, what kind of data they have. If you want to analyze SQL monitors in actual live environment, then go ahead and you go to this website, and you can log in on this website using either your GitHub own personal Google account, GitHub account, or you can use the credentials which are provided in this URL, ajaydwivedi.com/go/SQL Monitor. If you want to watch previous videos related to SQL Monitor, you can utilize this URL, which will take you a playlist of videos which are all on SQL Monitor topic. I have written various blogs on how to use SQL Monitor to resolve the performance issues in your environment. You can get all those blogs using ajaydwivedi.com/category/SQL Monitor. And last, there is a big SQL community out there. So you can join SQL Server community workspace using this URL, ajaydwivedi.com/go/Slack, and join SQL Monitor public channel in that SQL community workspace. You can post your queries or your questions or whatever errors or problems you are facing while installing SQL Monitor into this Slack channel, and either me or somebody else will definitely reply to your queries. So in today's demo, we would be baselining SQL Server on two machines. The first and very first machine that should always be baselined is your inventory server. Then once your inventory server is baselined with SQL Monitor, then you can baseline as many as servers you like. Okay, so in today's demo, we will first baseline our inventory server. In my case, the inventory server virtual machine would be named as SQL Monitor. And then after that SQL Monitor baselining, we will baseline another virtual machine, which the name of the machine is Workstation. So let's start. So now I have taken RDP of SQL Monitor virtual machine. The very first thing you have to do is you have to download SQL Monitor GitHub repository. So I already shared the URL just few seconds back. Go to that URL, or you can simply say github.com/IamAjayDwivedi/SQL Monitor and download SQL Monitor from here. To download SQL Monitor, just make sure you are connected to the dev branch, go to code section and download the zip here. Once you have downloaded the zip, extract it and take the take the SQL Monitor folder, which has all the other files and folders within it. So I have copied the SQL Monitor folder here inside a folder on E drive. So inside E drive, I have created a folder called GitHub, and within that I have copy pasted the SQL Monitor folder. So from here I will start our SQL Monitor execution. The very next thing that you have to do here is, if you open SQL Monitor in Visual Studio Code or any editor, you will find that we have a file called .gitignore. So the whole purpose of gitignore is to help you. It's a kind of instruction to tell the Git or GitHub that ignore all these files and folders which are mentioned here. So if we create a folder with name volatile or private or work, these folders would be ignored by the GitHub totally. So even if I take the latest from the GitHub, anything which I place in work folder or private or volatile folder or in other or any of these folders, they would be entirely ignored by the GitHub, and will never be overwritten or replaced. So in short, if you want to keep any personalized script, make a folder with either of these names so that you can keep those scripts safe. So I have already done that. I have created a folder with name work. So here you can see I have created a directory with name work, and the next thing I have done is I have copied all the files of wrapper samples. So in the wrapper samples directory, I have these two files. I have already copied them in the work folder, and I have given them custom names, whatever names I like. So in my environment, uh, the two machines which we are going to use for demo, they have already SQL Monitor installed on them. For example, here you can see these are all the jobs that get created with the SQL Monitor. So these jobs are already present on workstation machine. Apart from the jobs, all the tables also exist here. Same goes for SQL Monitor inventory server also. So on inventory server also, you can see all the jobs are already present, and all the objects are also there. So the very first thing we will have to do is we have to remove the SQL Monitor from both of them. For removing SQL Monitor from your environment, we already have a script called Remove-SQLMonitor, and for that also we have a wrapper script. So what I will do is, since I have already copied both of these files from the wrappers directory, wrapper install SQL Monitor, wrapper remove SQL Monitor, I have already copied these two in my work directory. So I will open remove SQL Monitor and remove SQL client repository here, scripts here. So starting with the client, because inventory should be the last server from which, if you want to remove SQL Monitor, then inventory server should be last in the list while removing SQL Monitor. So we will start with the client. In my case, the client machine name is workstation. So in the wrapper script, I provide SQLInstance to baseline as a workstation. I don't need to provide any of these parameters while uninstallation. Then in 11 number, line number 11 and 12, I have to provide the inventory server name or IP and inventory database name. Post that, I can comment each and every parameter which is there in the in this for this script. So I am making sure by default, I think this is remove SQL Monitor script. It does not delete the underlying SQL Monitor tables. If you are 100% sure that you don't want to keep any data of SQL Monitor, then go ahead, enable this parameter with false value. So the parameter name is skip drop table, and we are saying that set it to false. That means we want to drop all the tables which were created by SQL Monitor. So that's it pretty much. Let's uninstall SQL Monitor from workstation machine. Just to show you one more time, SQL Monitor machine already has all the SQL agent jobs, and it is already part of it. SQL Monitor is already baselined on the server. And if I go to localhost colon 3000, which happens to be the local GitHub local SQL Monitor dashboards on this SQL Monitor inventory server. So here you can see, if I go here on the individual server dashboard, you can see in the drop down I get workstation machine also. So let's start with uninstallation of workstation. After setting the proper parameters and making sure that this line number 29 file is accessible and the path is correct. So in my case, if you remember, I placed SQL Monitor folder in eGitHub. So this is absolutely correct in my case. So all I have to do is I have to start execution of this script. Another issue that you might face in your environment is, say that you downloaded the scripts of SQL Monitor and somehow due to security reasons those scripts are blocked, because in your environment only all signed scripts are allowed to execute. In those cases, what you can do here is you can unblock any file which is present in this directory. Okay, so to unblock the code, it is already present in the wrapper install SQL Monitor script. We will talk about that when we go to the installation of SQL Monitor. So let's start with uninstallation of SQL Monitor from workstation machine. So here currently it is telling me that you have there are some connections using login Grafana onto the workstation machine. That's why we were not able to drop the login Grafana from that workstation machine. So let's go here and close all these dashboards. Okay, and try this uninstallation from step number 47 one more time. So there is this parameter which says that start at step, and since our execution failed at step number 47, I will pass the step number 47 here and retry uninstallation. So there we are. SQL Monitor has been totally uninstalled from workstation machine. Just to validate the very same thing, I can go to the dashboard. I can go to SSMS, and earlier we were seeing all these jobs there. If I refresh this jobs node, now all of those things should be gone. So now I don't have any SQL Monitor related jobs. Same will happen for tables of SQL Monitor. So if I come here and refresh the tables node, all of a sudden all the tables for SQL Monitor are all gone. So this is what we have done. We have removed SQL Monitor from workstation machine. Now let's do the same thing for inventory server. So machine in this parameter of line number 8, pass your inventory server name itself. Line number 11 and 12, they will remain intact. Inventory server is SQL Monitor itself, and the inventory database is DBA. Apart from that, here we have line number 22. As I said, talked about this earlier also. If you are 100% sure that you want to drop the tables belonging to SQL Monitor, you can set this to false. Otherwise, you can set this to true. When you set it true, tables will not be dropped. So that's it pretty much. Let's remove SQL Monitor from our inventory itself. Now this is the least tested feature. Okay, this is the least tested feature of remove SQL Monitor, because I rarely remove SQL Monitor from inventory. So there might be some hiccups while dropping SQL Monitor from inventory itself. But still, I think we are going good here. So again, it failed at line number 47. So what I would do here is just to make sure that there is not any connection to this box, I will reboot the SQL services. So once while that connection, while the services are restarting, let me make sure that I have provided the proper step to start with. Once the services restart, I will go ahead and kickstart this removal script again. So there we are. SQL Monitor has been removed from even inventory server, which happens to be SQL Monitor itself in my case. So let's validate if everything went well for removal of SQL Monitor from inventory itself. So earlier we were able to see all these jobs. Let me refresh the node, jobs node, and there we are. There is no longer any job from SQL Monitor left in this on the server. Let's validate the same thing for tables. So we can see pretty much most of the tables have been removed. But as I said earlier, this is the least tested feature because I rarely remove SQL Monitor from inventory server. So there are still 4 tables which are left. Let me take screenshot of these, because I will eventually add these in the script. So I can put them in here, pictures. Okay, so let me delete all these tables manually. Uh, View, Object Explorer, and finally delete these tables manually. So there we are. We have removed SQL monitors from the server altogether now. So we can proceed for a clean installation of SQL Monitor. As I talked about earlier, the very first server that should be baselined should be your inventory server itself. In my case, it is this SQL Monitor virtual machine itself. The second server could be from there could be any SQL Server instance that you want to baseline in your environment. So in my case, it would be workstation virtual machine. Okay, so we will start with this SQL Monitor inventory server. So for that, if you remember, I already copied wrapper samples in work folder. So I will use this one, wrapper install SQL Monitor hyphen inventory. So it is the same script, wrapper install SQL Monitor. Simply I have made two copies of it, one customized for inventory, one customized for other clients apart from inventory. So let's start with the inventory now. So like earlier, the parameters name would be pretty much same. The SQL instance that you want to baseline, since I am baselining my inventory server itself, which happens to be SQL Monitor. So this SQL Monitor value will go here and it will go here also in line number 17. So inventory server name also should be SQL Monitor in my case. SQL instance to baseline should also be SQL Monitor in my case. Second thing, what database to use for storing the SQL Monitor collected metrics. So DBA database, and same would be inventory database also. Then you have to provide your email ID of your DBA group who should receive the jobs failure email alert if the jobs start failing in future. Uh, I would advise to pretty much disable all the parameters in this SQL Monitor until and unless you are sure that you need those parameters. Okay, so as and when you face any kind of error, probably that error can be resolved by using one of these parameters which are there in this list. So anything between line number 7 till line number 65 are the parameters which are accepted, which can be accepted by install SQL Monitor .ps1 file. Okay, so these are all parameters through which we can change behavior of SQL Monitor installation. So if you face an error, there is a very high chance that I have already worked on that error and I have provided some parameter to get rid of that error. Okay, so by default, I disable all these parameters by commenting them out. But as and when I get an error, based on what error I have, I may enable different kind of parameters. For example, if the if the file DBA database files are going into C drive, by default installation of SQL Monitor will fail. But if you want to override that thing, because you don't always have more anything other than C drive in office laptops, in those cases, if you install SQL Server locally on your office laptop, the files will go on C drive. And if you want to skip this validation of DBA files not being in C drive, then you can utilize this parameter which says skip drive check. There could be even scenarios in your environment where uh, ping alerts are blocked, where ping command is blocked in your environment due to security reasons. Then you can use this parameter skip ping check, which is mentioned in line number 52. There could be even scenario where your DBA database is of different collation than your master or TempDB. In those cases, you want to skip the collation check in your environment, in your deployment. So you can use this line number 49 parameter, skip collation check. If you want, if you don't have any database mail profile default mail profile configured in your environment, then by default the installation of SQL Monitor will fail. If you want to override that also, you can use the parameter of line number 48, skip mail profile check. So similarly, we have various parameters to tackle different kind of errors while installation of SQL Monitor. By default, I disable all these parameters and use only when I really need them to resolve an issue. So let's start here. Okay, so I make sure that the path of the SQL Monitor is absolutely correct. If you remember correctly, my SQL Monitor folder is present in GitHub, so this path is absolutely correct for me. So I'll go ahead and execute it. So SQL Monitor installation has started here, and if you go to the top, I have mentioned pretty much all the basic information about your environment before starting the SQL Monitor execution on your server. So right now we are baselining our inventory server itself, which happens to be the very first server to baseline. And now we are on step number 25, 27. I will also recommend to read each and every message that we get in SQL Monitor installation starting from the top, because these messages will give you an idea what we do in the SQL Monitor installation. It's pretty much detailed, so that will give you an idea what to do in case you are troubleshooting some kind of issue. So starting from the top, here you can see here that our installation started at on December 10th, started at 14:18. That means 2 p.m. 18 minutes past 2 p.m. Okay, so we started installation of SQL Monitor. The version which we are using is version 1.6.0, which was released on December 09. If you have any kind of issue which you are not able to resolve on your own, then you can go to this URL and post your issue up there on this URL. You can also reach out to other people on SQL community workspace by joining a SQL Monitor public channel and posting your error with screenshot and steps to reproduce up there in this Slack channel. You can also reach out to me for any paid support on this URL if you want. So the next thing that you have to understand here is we collect all the metrics in the SQL Monitor using SQL agent jobs. Some jobs they run T-SQL scripts, for example collecting the weight stats. Okay, so collecting the weight stats, collecting other SQL agent jobs status, all the there are some scripts which run T-SQL queries in them. There are some SQL agent jobs which run PowerShell scripts in them. So all those jobs which we call in which we run PowerShell scripts, they are called PowerShell jobs step. All the SQL agent jobs in which we take RDP of the remote machine to carry out some activity. Okay, so all the steps where we have to take RDP of the remote machine, whichever we are baselining, perform some activity, those are called RDP session steps. So in SQL Monitor, we have 3 RDP session steps. The first one is step number 9, copy DBA tools module to the host. So whatever machine we are baselining, we copy the DBA tools and its dependent modules on that machine in C program files modules directory. Then we copy the SQL Monitor inner folder. So that means I am talking about this SQL Monitor folder, which is within the SQL Monitor folder itself. So outer SQL Monitor folder and this inner SQL Monitor folder, they share the same name. So always remember, we are talking about as a step this SQL Monitor folder. So this SQL Monitor folder also should be copied on C drive of the remote machine. So here you can see I have already copied SQL Monitor here. Okay. So this SQL Monitor folder should be copied on the remote machine, whichever we are baselining. Now why it has to be copied? Because this inner SQL Monitor folder has all the PowerShell scripts that we are calling inside the SQL agent jobs. So this folder has to be copied on each and every machine which will be baselined with SQL Monitor. So that is this step number 10. Then there is another step, step number 11, with which we create a performance data collector. So if you use Perfmon here, if you go to collect collector data set, here you can see there is a Perfmon data collector set, name is DBA, and it is running in running state. So this is created by step number 11. So we have in essence 3 RDP steps. I call them RDP steps because usually in order to carry out these 3 steps you have to take RDP of the remote machine. Through programming, we try to take PowerShell remoting of your client machine, the machine which we are baselining, and through PowerShell remoting, we try to copy the DBA tools folders. We try to copy the SQL Monitor folder on the C drive, and we try to create data collector set through PowerShell remoting. But if due to any security reasons, if due to any technical reasons, if this SQL Monitor script is not able to perform PowerShell remoting, then you have to carry out these 3 steps on your own. Okay, so for these 3 steps, now you understand what are these 3 steps. These are RDP steps. The first one is to copy the DBA tools module folder and its dependent modules on the remote machine. Then copying the SQL Monitor folder, and third, creating the data collector set on the remote machine. To copy the DBA tools module, first thing is you have to download the DBA tools module. You can download the DBA tools module by using the save module command. I have provided a detailed command for downloading the downloading the DBA tools here in this line. Probably it's not present in this script. If you open the original sample in the wrapper samples folder and wrapper install SQL Monitor, if you scroll to the bottom, here you will see a script has been provided with instructions of how to download DBA tools. So if you want to download DBA tools module, this is the right way to download DBA tools module. Save -module, provide the module name, and what is the path where you want to download the DBA tools module. So I downloaded the DBA tools module in downloads folder. Once that is done, I will copy the DBA tools module from that downloads folder into some other path, and I specify that path here in the parameter set, line number 12, DBA tools folder path. So GitHub DBA tools. So in my case, DBA tools has been copied on. This is wrong path, it seems. GitHub DBA tools. I don't have D drive, or probably it's missing. Give me a minute. There is some issue on my machine then. D drive is missing probably. D drive is literally missing. Okay, D drive is literally missing, so I provided the wrong path there. So it means we did not get error because the DBA tools might be existing in my case. But let's see this thing in action. Oh, sorry, this is samples, not original. Original which I am executing right now is this one. Where is that install? Yeah. So it is present in F DBA tools. So if I go to F and DBA tools, so here you can see DBA tools is already present. Now DBA tools in the latest releases has been divided into 2 modules, DBA tools and DBA tools. DBA tools has been divided into two modules, DBA tools and its dependent DBA tools.library. So when you use save -module command to download DBA tools, these two folders would be downloaded. You have to copy these two on the remote client which you are baselining. So once I copy them, where I have to paste them, I have to go to my computer, C drive, program files, Windows PowerShell, and the modules. And here you have to copy both DBA tools and DBA tools library. This was the first RDP session step. The second RDP session step is to copy the SQL Monitor folder. So go to your SQL Monitor folder. Inside that outer SQL Monitor folder, you have inner SQL Monitor folder. So copy this inner SQL Monitor folder and then go to C drive and paste on the C drive directly here. So now I have copied the C drive SQL Monitor folder here. So that was step number 2. Then we have the third step in RDP steps, if you remember clearly. The third step in RDP steps is set up perfmon data collector. So once you have copied SQL Monitor folder on C drive, you have to run perfmon collector logman file. So all you have to do here is you have to go to this directory and run perfmon data collector file. So let me go there. I will change to C SQL Monitor. Oh, sorry, I have to do CD. Sanvi. Okay. So C SQL Monitor. Now I can execute that script which I just talked about. So the script name is perfmon collector logman. So I would simply say perfmon. It's not working. Perfmon collector logman, and simply I will execute this. So once you execute this, it will create that DBA data collector on your server. So pretty much these are the 3 steps for which we usually take PowerShell remoting, or if PowerShell remoting is not working for you, you have to perform these 3 steps manually. Once you perform these 3 steps manually, like I did just now, you can get around that error by using this parameter which says skip RDP session steps. So what I will do is I will enable this skip RDP session steps because I did all these 3 steps manually on my own. So now I can skip the PS remoting or RDP things with this parameter. Now let's resolve the actual issue. So if you remember, our script execution failed on step number 40. So step number 40, in this we are getting this error, invalid object, and this is the object name which does not exist in short. Now the error message says that kindly ensure all SQL agent jobs. Okay, and finally run this job. Okay, so we have to make sure that all SQL Monitor jobs are running, and in the end this job should also be running, should have executed at least once. Check SQL agent jobs. So let's see if this check SQL agent jobs is there, and we can whether we can make execute it at least once. So now on SQL Monitor inventory server, all the jobs are created, and if I see that job which is mentioned in the error message, DBA check SQL agent jobs, it has executed at least once. I can see last outcome is to be successful. So in short, I can rerun this script from the step where it has failed. So it has failed on step number 40. I will rerun installation script with step number 40 using the parameter start at step, which is mentioned in line number 41. So there we go, and we can restart SQL Monitor installation from step number 40. So there we are. Now SQL Monitor has been installed on our inventory server. The name of the inventory server itself is SQL Monitor in our case. So pretty much here we are. Next thing you have to do is make sure that all the jobs are successfully running in your environment. This job update SQL Server versions is failing on my on in my environment because this SQL Monitor server is having some internet connectivity issue. This job connects to the internet and finds out the latest SQL Server releases that has been there. So somehow my machine is not able to connect to internet properly. So that's why this step is failing. But apart from this step, this job update SQL Server versions, other jobs are running successfully. You can see the outcome here. So if all the jobs are running fine, then that means SQL installation, SQL Monitor installation has succeeded successfully for my inventory server. Now let's baseline the very next server. So for the next server, let me open the wrapper sample which I have created for client machines. So go to work and wrapper install SQL Monitor client. So let's start the installation of SQL Monitor on workstation machine. So here also just make sure that the very basic parameters are there. Now, one thing which I missed to talk about is uh, parameters, DBA tools folder path, first responder kit zip file, darling data zip file, and Ola Hellengren. So how to download these I have already mentioned as a comment here. For downloading DBA tools, as I showed you earlier, you have to use the save module command, which I have already mentioned at the bottom in this wrapper samples script. Similarly, for downloading the first responder kit zip file, either you can do that manually from the releases section of the GitHub repository of first responder kit, or I have again provided the command here at the bottom. Same goes for darling data. You have to download the darling data from codes drop down section, and Ola Hellengren maintenance solution also from the codes download section. But I still have provided the commands for doing all these things at the bottom in the wrapper script. So if you go to the wrapper script and scroll at the bottom, you will see this section where it says download other GitHub repositories, modules, and files. So this is the command which I use to download SQL Monitor. If you don't want to run command, all you have to do is copy this path and paste it in browser. It will automatically download the zipped GitHub repository. For DBA tools, the only right way is to download through save module command. For POS, there is another module, PowerShell module, which is called POS RS job, which has to be installed on inventory server. So in my case, this machine is my inventory server itself. So I have to install POS RS job on inventory server, either using this command of line number 97, or I can download the POS RS job module first and then paste it in the PowerShell modules folder that happens to be C program files, Windows PowerShell modules folder there. So after installing POS RS job, then you have to download the darling data module also in the zip format. So either you use this entire command, or you can simply copy paste this URL in your browser and it will directly download the darling data zip file. Same goes for Ola Hellengren solution also. So for Ola Hellengren, either you can run these two lines, or you can simply copy this URL, paste it in your browser, and it will download the zip file for Ola Hellengren maintenance solution. Finally, talking about first responder kit. So first responder kit has to be downloaded from the releases section. You cannot download it from the zip file. So to download first responder kit from releases section, either you can utilize this script altogether which I have provided here, or do it manually on your own. So to download first responder kit manually, just go on the Google and type first responder kit GitHub, and the first URL would be the GitHub link for first responder kit. Then in here, go to the releases section and take the latest release. So here, if you this is the latest release of 10/10/2023. So simply click on this under the assets section, simply click on this source code zip. So it will download the first responder kit zip file for you. So once you have downloaded all these requirements for SQL Monitor, you have to provide either their folder path or sometimes the zip file path here in these as a parameters here. So this parameters from line number 12 to line number 15, these are the parameters where you have to provide those files which you have downloaded. So in my client installation, DBA tools DBA tools repository which I have, DBA tools module which I have downloaded, it is present in F drive. First responder kit zip file which I have downloaded, it is I have provided the path for that here. So just to make sure if the path is correct, let me go to F drive and validate that part. So here you can see in the F drive, I have the first responder kit zip file present here. So same path should go here, which I have downloaded. So then Darling data and Ola Hellgren maintenance solution. So now since I have already installed SQL Monitor on inventory, so the next machine that I am going to install SQL Monitor on is another SQL server, which happens to be workstations. Workstation as SQL instance to baseline, and in inventory I am putting the SQL Monitor server. And then DBA database for the individual server which I am baselining, and the inventory database which happens to be the DBA in my case, DBA group email ID. After that, rest of the parameters I will keep them disabled. Okay, so I have disabled pretty much all the parameters. As I said earlier, you should enable those parameters only when you face some issue and you are trying to resolve that issue. Because these parameters, they are workaround to get to resolve various kinds of issues. So generally they are not needed until and unless you face some issue. So let's start execution of SQL Monitor on workstation. Before this, let's validate one more time. So I don't see any job of SQL Monitor on workstation machine. So now let's start the execution of SQL Monitor. So starting from the top, we validated very basic things on workstation machine, and then we ended up with this error here. So here in the error it is telling me that can I have your phone? Here in this error we can let's read it. The error message is saying kindly provide value for parameter SQL instance as destination, as the host has multiple database engine services and perf data can be saved only on one SQL instance. So I think the error is pretty clear from this error message, but still to give you an idea, on the SQL Monitor machine, I have multiple SQL instances installed. So on workstation machine, if I go to SQL Server Configuration Manager and I refresh this, you can see here I have one instance, name is SQL 2014, one instance Express Edition, one is default instance. So total I have 3 SQL Server instances installed on workstation machine. So SQL Monitor tool by itself cannot decide which instance should be used for saving the data for operating system level metrics, because we capture operating system level metrics only once, and the same operating system level metrics would be shared by all the instances of that box. So here it is simply saying that you have multiple database engine services and the data can be saved only on one instance. So you have to provide the value for SQL instance as data destination parameter. Second thing, we have to make sure that we understand that there are multiple instances on the box. So this thing is the second error message. So I'm going to enable these two parameters which are mentioned in the error message. So the first parameter is SQL instance as data destination. I have to enable it and I have to mention where I want to save the data. for operating system level metrics. So there are three possible values for this. The first instance is the default instance. Second instance on workstation machine is a 2014 instance. The third instance on the machine is SQL Express. So I can save the data of operating system level metrics on any of those SQL instances. I will go with the default instance. The second parameter that I have to enable according to the error message is confirm validation of multiple instances. So I see that parameter here in line number 58. So I will enable that also. So after enabling these two, I will restart the execution of SQL Monitor on workstation machine. Now, after doing that, again I faced some error. The error message is saying here that the collation of some of the databases is not standard collation. So here you can see the by default collation which is recommended is SQL Latin 1 General CP1 CIAS. Here we get CS, that means case sensitive. So in order to get around this error, I can go ahead and enable parameter of 49, line number 49. Skip collation check. So once I enable this, the collation check would be skipped and we will not get this error anymore. So let's see if installation will proceed. Yes. So installation has started proceeding on this machine now. So now we are on step number 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 24, 25. So you remember previously also we had this error message where it said that we are going to update jobs executions jobs threshold in this table SQL agent job threshold, and then we got an error saying that as invalid object name dbo.sql agent jobs threshold. Now if this object does not exist, then we are also given some instruction is kindly ensure that all SQL agent jobs and finally the job name check SQL agent jobs is executed at least once before we retry this step. So let's connect to that server and make sure that all the jobs have executed at least once, and then finally the check SQL agent jobs. So here we can see collect perform data job is failing. Okay, and this job has not executed even once. So let me execute this job once first, and then we will correct the issue of this job. So let's see what is the issue with this job. We are getting access denied. So while troubleshooting any job, we have to start from the bottom logs of the latest execution. So this is the latest execution. I expand this and I go to the bottom of that job history. Okay. So here the first thing it is telling me is that fetching the details of DBA data collector. Then it is importing the trying to fetch the last imported performon data file, performon file, and then it will stop the data collector. It will scan the existing files that has to be imported, and then it will get all the DBA database services on the machine, and it will start reading each and every generated performon file, and it will export that to the SQL server. That's the general idea. But here we are getting error saying that access is denied. Okay. Now we know that SQL services are running under lab SQL service account. Just to make sure that this information to revalidate this information, I'll connect to the SQL server instance and run the query. Select star from sys.dm server services and find out the SQL agent service account. So SQL agent service account is this. Now we have to, in order to resolve any permission denied issues, SQL agent service has to be given some permissions. What are those permissions? Those permissions have been mentioned in the wrapper install SQL monitor script. If you scroll to the bottom, here we have mentioned three Windows groups. The first group is administrators, second group is performance log users, third group is performance monitor users. So SQL agent service account has to be added as a member of all these groups. How to add that? Open computer management, system tools, local users and groups, and within the groups you will find all these groups. So let's go ahead. Computer management, then system tools, uh, then where is that? Did I miss anything? Local users. Where are local users here? Probably I am at the wrong place. I'll search for users here normally. Okay. Sorry. See, my SQL monitor machine is not an ordinary machine. This is a domain controller itself. That's why I'm not able to get those groups that easily here on this machine. So question is, what can I do? Oh, sorry. I don't have to do this thing on this machine. I have to do this thing on workstation machine. So I'll take RDP of workstation machine, then open the same things here. So computer management, then local users groups. The first group where I have to add SQL agent service account is administrators group. So lab SQL service, and I added the administrators in lab SQL service in administrators group. The next one is performance log users. So open performance log users and add lab service here also. Third is performance monitor users. So same goes for this one. After you have added SQL agent service account on all these three AD groups, then we have to restart SQL agent service also. So for default instance, SQL agent service happens to be this one. So let me restart SQL agent service. Not database engine, only SQL agent service, because we have made changes for SQL agent service account only. And now we will retry that failing job here. So now we can see the workstation job on the workstation machine. Even that job which failed earlier is running successfully. I can see the history here as successful. So probably it was not even an issue, it was some intermittent issue, I guess. Okay, so pretty much all the jobs are running successfully, and we can restart our execution at the step where it failed. So execution failed at step number 41. So let's restart with step number 41. So the parameter name is start at step. I provide the 41 step as an argument and restart the execution. So that's it. SQL Monitor installation has completed successfully even on another client SQL server. So just to validate, I open job activity monitor on the client, which happens to be workstation machine in my case, and here I can see all the jobs are running fine. Now, how to install Grafana dashboard, how to install Grafana, and how to upload all those Grafana dashboards I have already shared in my previous video sessions. So I will not demonstrate the same thing again, because the steps for installing Grafana and uploading the Grafana dashboards is exactly same there is no change at all. But for let's validate if everything went well, then we should see the workstation machine on the Grafana dashboards now. So here we are on localhost 3000 on my inventory server where I have installed the Grafana. I have already imported all the dashboards previously before uninstalling. So I can go to this distributed server, distributed live, monitoring live distributed dashboard, and I can see my SQL monitor as well as workstation machine, and I can see pretty much every detail like CPU information, because we just baselined within last 5 minutes, so we can see the CPU utilization only for last 5 minutes. But yeah, this is how you baseline SQL Server instance, a SQL monitor on any SQL server, including the inventory server itself. So thank you, folks. Thanks for watching this video. If you have any questions, uh, feel free to reach out to me through emails or by raising a raising your concern on the discussion page on GitHub repository, or by reaching out to me through Slack channel of SQL Server Community Workspace. So thank you all and have a great day.